I want to show you how to build this elf or gnome house with a working door, and on the back side it's got even an upstairs and downstairs. Let's get started.
And then these doors, now in this particular building, the thickness of this log is about, give or take, an inch to between an inch and a half, maybe getting on close to 2 inches thick. So I had to make a frame, a door jamb with a stop and a floor piece, which is part of the door jamb. You could call that the sill. And then I put the nails are little pins.
They're not nails, they're actually sewing pins.
Sewing,
straight,
yeah, like
straight pins.
Needles that my wife uses.
Is the door jamb and the stop the same?
The stop is separate.
Separate, okay.
And so the jamb, and you do is you build all of that. You cut this opening out.
That has to be cut out first before you do anything else.
With a saber saw or what you might have. You can use a handsaw if you want, tipping this over and cutting.
And these are oak logs. And then also drill the round hole at the top for the window. That was drilled out with a hole saw.
Yep.
And those things, the cutting was all done first, and then the door was installed in the window later. So how did you install that door?
The door, the thickness is about 1/8 of an inch. So you take your drill. I use a battery operated drill, and I put one of those sewing pins. I thought I had one here someplace.
That's okay, man.
I don't see it.
And you had to put tape
and
on
I
around
put that in here, tape around it, because
masking tape.
Masking tape. And you get it so it spins as round as you can. Then you drill through. Well, when this frame on this particular one was out, then you could drill in there.
And well, you just had the threshold was just by itself, and you had to drill the hole down into the threshold.
Yep.
And is that about 1/8 of an inch out from the side of the door?
About 1/8 of an inch out.
And
about 1/16 of an inch in. And then the threshold and the door exactly the same, top and bottom.
Yep, okay.
You put little pins in, you cut them with a tin snip. They're about 1/2 inch long.
Okay.
And part goes down in there, part goes up in here and into the door. And you have to really get them accurate so that door opens nice like that. Otherwise, it's not going to work.
No, it's going to hit. But then you actually flipped this upside down and put the pin into the top of the door and pushed it up into the door frame or the jamb, and then you put the sill. You put the pin into the door and into the sill, and then pushed it together, and then glued that at the same time. So they're tricky doors to put together. A lot of these I've seen people use a piece of leather or something for the hinges, which works okay, but generally the doors end up kind of sagging, and you have to jimmy them to get them shut. And these doors close really nicely, but they're not easy to do.
And then the trim is put on last. The door trim around after the jamb, and the door is put in there. And sometimes you cut a little extra on top, just carefully with a little saw or knife, whatever you can use, to get this to fit against the jamb, and then sneak in between all this jagged bark. And on the sides the same way. You'll see a little bit of the door jamb.
Yeah, and you used a Dremel tool with a grinder or sand or something to clean out parts so that trim fits in well.
The Dremels really are helpful.
Okay. And then the window,
that's got a piece of plastic in there.
Yeah, like off of a spinach container.
Yep.
Something. It's clear. It just adds that little detail. replicates glass, and it's actually pretty close to scale on this size building. So that little plastic, and then the grids. How did you build the grids?
I just chose to put in the grids in 2 pieces. Now that's a challenge, and so this is a solid piece, and these 2 pieces I cut out of the middle of this long piece. Actually, this is 1 piece here and 1 piece here, and I cut out with the Dremel just enough so that this piece would slide into this piece, and there's just about a 1/16 of an inch on the back, and that makes it a little stronger and it's easier to put it together. And you glue it very well, and then when you put it in here, this, I'm not going to take it out, but this is just friction fit. It's pretty snug, but you just have to, just a little bit of sanding on the edges wherever it needs it.
So you made it a little bit bigger than the window size by maybe a 1/16 or an 1/8?
About a 64th of an inch. I mean, just a hair.
So you didn't glue that. You didn't glue that at all.
No, it's not glued.
And you could put a little drop maybe of super glue.
It wouldn't hurt.
Something.
Wood has a tendency to move by itself because of moisture and dryness. So if you put a little dab of glue before you put it in, that might be a good idea.
And then that plastic, that's just friction fit too. That's cut.
Yep, that is. You
cut that, and then you test it, and then you trim it down maybe a little bit more until it just barely fits in there.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Take a piece of this. Take a piece of this thin material that's on the back of a book. A
notebook. Or you could use that's off of a cereal box.
That's off a cereal box, yeah. And it's nice because it's sturdy enough, and you cut that exact size, and then.
Well, you held the cardboard up there and traced onto it?
I believe I did.
Okay.
So that you can get that size cut, and then you can cut that out, and then you can put it on the plastic, and then you take a nail. I used a nail like this, and it's a finished nail, 2.5 inches long, and then you sharpen this to a point.
With a file?
With a file, so you got a nice sharp point. And then you circle onto the plastic, and you scratch it with this, and it turns out real nice, because a pencil doesn't show up.
Yeah, and a marker.
A scratch mark does.
If you used a marker, you might see some of that on the edge of the window, and it wouldn't look good, but the scribing works real well.
Yeah.
Okay. Be sure and check out my other videos. Please subscribe, like, share, leave a comment below. Have a great day.